Hello, welcome to another episode of Warlord TV. Thank you all for being here. And before Michael G gets to comment, yeah, I'm drinking cranberry juice, but no, Michael G, I'm not on my period. Okay. So I know the minute you see that, you'll be like, what are you on your period? Because you're a smart ass. And I like that. Don't ever change. How's everyone doing? Can everyone hear me just fine? I assume so. Thank you all for being here. Kevin Ramsey, Robin Prater, Michael G, Dynamite. Coffee First and Speak saw you, Dome Seeker, the moderator. Damn. Yeah, Michael G. I already knew as soon as he saw it. Michigan Outpost, thank you for being here. Frank Meadows, Don Curtis, awesome with the 5x5. PMP with the comment. There we go. Been commenting for 2 years now, give or take. There's Chewbacca. How you doing, buddy? Anyway, all right. I hear all these people. I see all these posts. The reason I decided to do this video today was because everybody's talking about a draft. Well, let's talk about that tonight. Let's see. About time. I'm running late. Michael G, you have a bladder infection? I hope that clears up. UTI. Stop doing bad things. All right. But penicillin cleared that right up for you. Okay. Trust me. I was in the Navy and the Army, but the Navy, you know what I'm talking about. Port calls. Anyway, I'm glad everybody could be here. I'm sure all of you, we've all seen the YouTube videos and the memes about World War III and a draft. Well, let's talk about that tonight. Currently, subject to change, the laws for the draft cap the age at 26. Okay, so if you're over 26, which 90+% of you are, in at least the people watching this right now, subscribers, according to the demographics of YouTube and the algorithm, are about my age, a little older, a little younger. So most of us are safe. We'll throw air quotes up there from a draft. However, you got to remember that the age didn't always used to be that. It used to be all the way up to 64. Okay, 18 to 64, and everything in between. That could change. That could change if we went into World War III. That could change like that. Why? Because the government sets the age limit. Okay, right now it's at 26 because that's all they need. But as many of you know, the average 24, 25-year-old, 23-year-old, the millennials, well, do you really have that much faith and hope that they'd be competent in combat? Probably not so much. Let me look in here real quick. They don't draft doughboys anymore. Well, give it time. The Army actually has fat camps now. They literally have fat camps now where you go to a fat camp before you go to boot camp. So yes, they're reaching into that doughboy pool. Okay, right now, the U.S. Army has fat camps because they are so far behind their quotas that they don't know what to do. Now, what caused this dramatic decline in people wanting to join the military? I don't know. Maybe it's all the wokeness might have something to do with it. Probably so. One of the reasons I would never serve right now or let my children serve is because they have, the woke PowerPoint presentations on how you should treat somebody when they're in your locker room and they have different genitalia. That's going on in the Army today. So there's that. But if a meat grinder situation happens, which when I say the meat grinder, most people who are participated in the war on terrorism around the world understand that to be, the Middle East, Afghanistan, or any serious conflict. Okay, he's throwing meat to the meat grinder. But the biggest meat grinder of them all, in current war, would be this spot right over here. It's little Iran. It's a 4-letter word. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I know PG-13, but yeah, we do not want to go and play in that meat grinder, because that's exactly what it would be. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, the U.S. military is the most powerful military on the face of the planet. Well, okay. Well, I'm not going to argue power when you got the Chinese with the largest navy and Russia with all kinds of toys that our news media doesn't talk about. But just for the sake of conversation, we're going to talk about Iran. And I put the little map up here because I know that a lot of people haven't been outside of this big green area over here called the United States. You know, some of you have, but not a lot of you have. So I wanted to have this up here so you'd be able to have a visual concept of what we're talking about. So over here is Iran. Now, on a map, and check it out, it's a world map and it's flat. Okay, so it's kind of like a flat earth map, if you will. Okay, so I'm trying to cover, please both people, all right? It's a map of the globe, but it's flattened out. So there's for John and Dome Seeker. That's for you. The rest of us will think of it as a sphere. I digress. This whole green area here called Iran is basically a mountain donut, if you will. Tehran's more towards the north, but it's right in the plains. But everything around, the entire border of Iran is mountains. When I say mountains, I mean mountains, okay? Like mountains. So just to get there, just to get where we need to be to actually get, tanks on the ground. Well, you're trying to take tanks through mountains. You're trying to take armored personnel carriers through mountains. You're trying to take vehicles that are really heavy or really top heavy through mountainous terrains. Now, anyone who participated in the war in Afghanistan will tell you that MRAPs, those armored personnel carriers that the sheriff's departments like to use nowadays against civilians and bad guys doing things, those big tank-looking pickup truck type deals, they're called MRAPs, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, did not do well in the mountains of Afghanistan. All right, they're very top-heavy. They're really wide. They weigh a lot. And on janky-ass mountain roads, they tend to flip over and slide down the hills and roll. Yeah, these things you don't want to operate in mountainous terrain with these things or transport. So basically, we would be fighting a mountainous Afghan-style war right off the jump. All right. So our staging areas would be very limited. We'd have to be staged somewhere outside of Iran. All right. It wouldn't be like, Iraq, where we did a push from Kuwait, bam, into Iraq, had all our little shit staged up in Iraq and just rolled on in, or when we went and, or Saudi Arabia and rolled on in. There's not really a staging area for an invasion into Iran. All right. Now, some people will say, well, we could stage in Saudi Arabia. Well, the Persian Gulf is how we get most of our equipment for war. There's two ways to get it there: by boat and by plane. All right. It takes a lot of effort to get shit there by plane. Most of our weapons of war travel via boat, ships, through the Straits of Hormuz and up into the Persian Gulf / Arabian Gulf, depending on which side of the Gulf you're on or what you call it, okay? But the problem is the Straits of Hormuz are so narrow. When we travel through them, all right, and yes, I've traveled through the Straits of Hormuz, the ships are constantly being pinged by silkworm missile silos that are all along the Iranian coast, right? And we're talking, some spots you can look to your left and see Oman. You can look to your right and literally see Iran. Okay, thank you for the coffee. Oh, I got a fancy coffee. Look at this, y'all gonna make fun of my coffee. I got a fancy coffee with all kinds of whipped cream and caramel on top. And that's fancy. If it's for Palestine, I'm 100%. I'd clarify that if it's for Palestine. It's not coffee, it's dessert. Yes, it is kind of like a dessert. Excuse me there. I had to get a drink. That's good. Yeah, that is nice, isn't it? It's almost like a Starbucks. Yes, it's coffee with a foo-foo stuff on top. But clarify that if it's for Palestine, because I didn't. If it's for Palestine, then I don't get it. You got to more clarification on that comment. But Iran can lock down the Straits of Hormuz at any time it wants. All right. Now, if our fleet's not in there, we can't stage in Saudi Arabia. We can't use it to stage our stuff unless we fly stuff in. All right. If our fleet's already in there, or a fleet is already in there, because that's the home of Fifth Fleet up in Bahrain. And down in Qatar, you have SOCCENT, all right, Special Operations Command. But if there's a fleet of warships already in the Persian Gulf, Iran can still shut down the Straits of Hormuz at any time. And anyone who tells you that they can't is blowing smoke up your ass, all right? They have so many mines, anti-ship mines. They have so many silkworm missile silos that it's ridiculous. I mean, our R2-D2s on the ships, they're called R2-D2s. It's a CWIS, close-in weapon system. It looks like an R2-D2 with a giant Gatling gun coming out of it. You set these things typically on automatic, so they're scanning. They're hooked onto a radar system, and they're scanning for any incoming threats. And a potential threat is just being pinged by enemy radar, all right? And I can't tell you the number of times I'd be outside, and, because smoke back then too. Most of the time they prefer us to smoke outside the ship. I'd be outside smoking a cigarette while we're going through the straits, and those R2-D2s would kick on, and they'd be going back and forth trying to lock on because they were getting pinged by Iranian silkworm missile silo, the radars from them that were identifying the ship. All right. So they were basically weapon systems talking back and forth. Like, I see you. Oh shit. I know you see me. Now I see you. Okay. So anybody that tells you that, oh, well, that we're a dominant sea power and we'll just go through the Straits of Hormuz anytime we want. No, we are 100% based off of what Iran does, whether or not we can or cannot go through there without massive casualties. And yeah, you probably still get a ship or two through, but cost versus lost, no. They can shut it down anytime they want. So if we had a fleet in there, they'd be trapped. All right. And that wouldn't do us much good, because once they ran out of munitions, unless you're flying them into Saudi Arabia, and so they can still launch munitions from the ships, Patriot missiles, cruise missiles, things like that, then eventually they're just going to be sitting there for nothing. They're just going to be sitting ducks, because the Iranians have all these little speedboats. Like the Quds Force is good at this shit. They had these little speedboats, and just USS Cole. That's the ship I was thinking about from Yemen last week when we were talking. They'll just suicide bomb the damn warships, come flying up across the Gulf, smack into them with a bunch of explosives in the front, blow holes in them, watch them sink to the bottom of the Gulf. They don't give a shit. Another problem we're going to have is that immediately, let me show you. This is Iran. Okay, right there. This, right to its right, its neighbor, is Afghanistan. Now, do you think that if U.S. troops push up into Iran, that we aren't going to be fighting the Taliban all over again? We aren't going to be fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda, all right? Plus, these guys here, Iran, those are most of the people, the Iranian Guard, all right? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Quds Force are pretty much the people who actually trained Al-Qaeda, all right? Like when shit started getting nasty after the liberation of Iraq, and then small militia groups started forming up, and all of a sudden they went from just being people that were terrified of the U.S. military to people who were sending our boys, our brothers home with no legs or in body bags. That's because these guys that we're picking a fight with now, or talking shit about picking a fight with now, train. They sent small groups in, guerrilla fights, their version of our Green Berets. Our Green Berets go in behind enemy lines, they find resistance, and they train resistance fighters. They train them to organize, they train them in guerrilla tactics. That's basically what Quds Force did in the IRG. Okay, the IRG. They went into Iraq and just in small groups and taught bigger groups how to fuck with us. So if you don't think that they're going to teach their own people how to do that, oh, you're gravely mistaken. This will become the biggest meat grinder that we have seen for generations. All right. Like I said, you would have to, in essence, we'd have to base somewhere outside. Now, we have some small places like Diego Garcia, which is a nice little island in the middle of nowhere down here. It's a good place that the government likes to hide people that it once disappeared. All right. Like if you were a bad guy over here, and the government didn't really know what to do with you, but they wanted the information from you and they want to be able to interrogate you, then you might disappear somewhere around here. I'm not saying that they do. I'm saying there's a possibility that there are black sites and rendition points in that vicinity. Okay. If the U.S. government did have prison ships, I'd look for them around here. Personally, I would look for them. I'm not saying they're there. I'm not saying that they were there. I'm just saying that I'd probably look around there. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the topic, the meat grinder. Who would go into the meat grinder? Well, a lot of people are, and it cracks me up when I see the millennials, they'll come fighting with dildos and shit like that. Well, yeah. Well, the problem is if the government decides to raise the age limit, which they were likely to do in an event of a world war, if you think there would be a world war and that the government would not raise the age limit, which they can just do, all right, they can just take a few votes and get shit done, then you're deluding yourself. But if you think their primary drafting would be millennials, why would you think that? If I were the government and I wanted to go the woke way, I would try to get rid of all of you, the conservatives, the veterans from age right now, the 35 to 50-year-olds in this country, 7.89% of them, 9% of the population between 35 years old and 54 years old. All right. The fighting age. All right. 8%, almost 9% if you count the females. All right. I wrote that down from the Bureau of Veteran Statistics. But right there's a big chunk of of opposition to the government. There's a big chunk that you can just feed to the meat grinder. All right. Because most of them, they'll know if you're going over there, you probably ain't coming back. All right. Especially in the first initial waves, probably not coming back. All right. Below that, you got 30, anything below that, you've got like 4% of the population are veterans from age 18 to 34. 4%. Another good group. Once you've got those two groups forward deployed, who's left to resist you? All right. Yeah, the sword boys might not want to go, but if you actually need them, just send them anyway. They're not going to go. And the reason I say the veterans, they'll want to send veterans first. Draft the veterans. They're already trained. All right. And they're your biggest threat here in the United States. We're the ones most likely to resist, I don't know, gun grabs, oppression. We're the most likely when you say, well, you're going to need papers to travel from one state to another, to say, how about you go yourself? All right. Like during the pandemic, when I still drove from Florida to West Virginia and all up and down the eastern seaboard, and I was like, I don't give a shit. Got places to go, got shit to do. We're the ones most likely to rock the boat. So those are the ones you get rid of first. Then, I mean, they know who votes which way. They gather all your data on your phone, all your voting records, everything. The government knows everything about you. So you don't think that they could make it so that they just happen to draft the most conservative, the rest of the fighting age males in said demographic first, and send them over the people who are going to give them the most resistance, or could give them the secondary most resistance? Yeah, think about it. And the other ones, and it's not like they're not going to go. As conservatives are the least likely to buck the system while it's still together. They're the least likely. You will sit there and you'll bitch and complain all day long about how you're overtaxed, you're overworked, but you keep going to work and you'll keep paying your taxes no matter what. All right. It may suck, but you'll embrace the suck and you'll do it. And the minute that they say, oh, well, we need these guys, you drafted, come join the Army, join the Navy, join the Marine Corps, you will go because you're predispositioned to do what you're told. And if you weren't, anybody who says that they weren't, have you stopped paying your taxes already? Bet you haven't. Not most of you. So, I mean, you can delude yourself, but you're not going to fool me. I mean, personally, I don't even care anymore. I'm just like, whatever. I don't, until you become comfortable breaking the law, that's your destiny, because that's where we're headed. Right now, we got Yemen launching rockets up into Israel, and the people that are launching the rockets right down here from this area of Yemen, launching up over Saudi Arabia and into Israel, are the Houthi, yes, from Yemen. All right, they're the rebels that Yemen's been in a civil war for like 10 years now, and they are backed by these guys. They get their funding and their weapon systems from those guys. They've launched cruise missiles over the past couple of days all the way up here. And guess who shot the cruise missiles down? These guys over here. Us. All right. So we intercepted them before they could actually do damage in Israel. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up on that. But you want to talk about how to, like I said, how to take over America? Well, just send all the people who would resist over here and throw them in the meat grinder. All right. If you look at it statistically, look at history, the only people in this country that actually dodged the draft during the last few wars, it's always liberals. It's always the left. All right. We do what we're told. We're good boys. We're the good boys. Okay. So don't think that that's not coming. If we actually start to prepare to go into Iran, if we start to prepare to go into Iran, just know that a draft is coming, because they don't have enough bodies right now to even put a dent in Iran. With the current U.S. military, we don't have a shot in hell of taking Iran without the use of some serious. Now, if we go chemical, biological, or nuclear, yes, we could take Iran in a day. But I don't think we're going to use those types of weapons. I mean, it is what it is. So let's see what's in the chat. Let me hop in here real quick. If there's any questions, put like a smiley face beside your question so I can see it. All right, so I spot right up. I believe they've already raised the recruitment age to 42. Yes, they've raised the recruitment age for the U.S. Army. Not the draft age, though. Draft age is still at 26. Rambo here late. I heard Yemen actually declared war against Israel. I'm guessing it's war. It says was, but war against Israel. Now you got to remember, there are two governments in Yemen right now. All right, there's the rebels that actually control a lot of the government, and there's the government pseudo in exile. All right, in the east, yes, the east. All right, so there's two governments, so you got to make sure you understand which government declared war, because one side is backed by Iran. That would be the rebels that are now in control of most of the government, and the now rebels, former legitimate government, is controlled by, or backed by, not controlled by, backed by Saudi Arabia, our ally. And Saudi Arabia and Iran are enemies, but that's neither here nor there. So not all of Yemen declared war on Israel would be a better way to put it. So there's that. See how convoluted that shit can get? This country is literally split in half, and half is backed by these people, and half is backed by these people. And then, yeah, it gets, because they've even attacked up into Saudi Arabia recently. Okay. Hey, leave my coffee alone. Oh, hold on. Dynamite says it's hard to take a man serious drinking little girl coffee. Coming from a man that wears a skirt. We ain't going to mention that. Kilt, skirt, whatever. Still a man dress. Still love you, brother. Eisenhower carrier group headed to the Middle East makes 2. Yeah. And see, that's the thing. To get to the Middle East, I'm going to erase this real quick. To get to the Middle East, right now, they were up in the mid, all right, up here, Mediterranean. They got to come through the canal, down through the Red Sea, and through this little strait here, right between, and right there, if my buddy's watching, right there's Djibouti, all right, Djibouti. He likes when I say Djibouti, Africa. He just thinks it's funnier and shit. He never heard of it till I mentioned it. But that's a little place there where we have, the U.S. has anti-piracy operations. And but they got to come through this narrow little strait right here, and right here they can be attacked from all different kinds of ways. Okay, because you got Somalia right here, and Yemen right there on the other side. So you know, the USS Cole, Yemen, big hole, 17 sailors died, bad. So the Eisenhower group has to get through there unscathed. And then they still have to enter the Straits of Hormuz and make it through there unscathed. And it depends on, you know, if somebody's just feeling froggy and decides we don't want them there, they might not make it there. I hope they do. But yeah, it can get ugly real fast, especially when you're dealing with big ships in narrow places, surrounded by people that have the capabilities to make those ships not float. There's that. Okay, what are we saying in here? Randy B, prayers for my wife Becca. She's in. So I see. Well, I hope she gets better. Okay. Ethan, good evening. You're watching, DJ. Good stuff. All right. Yeah. So that's the thing. A lot of people, you know, don't actually know how treacherous some of this stuff is. And the really dangerous parts, in my opinion, is right here and right about here. We want to stay away from these areas and leave. Listen, no matter what we do, we need to avoid these two areas. Don't bother anybody in these two areas. because this is the Bikini Atoll, okay? And that's where Godzilla lives. And right there is Skull Island. And we don't want to get that big motherfucker going either. So we need to leave this guy and this guy alone. I mean, in case you didn't know, that's where Godzilla lives. And that's where King Kong lives. Just saying. Remember, this is a work of fiction. What y'all laughing about? Okay, JDP says, Rob, what's your opinion on China jumping off to take advantage of a possible Middle Eastern front? We'd be hard pressed just in the Middle East. We war game. Black Hack, where are they gay? Now you're talking. All right, real quick. JDP, we war gamed years ago. We as in the military. I say we because sometimes my brain still thinks that I'm still in there, even though I'm not in there, and I don't have my super squirrel, top secret squirrel clearance anymore. At least I don't think I do. And if they haven't canceled that shit by now, there's more problems than I thought. Because I would cancel my security clearance at this point. Okay, but we always speculated that the best way for the downfall of the United States is if Russia and China worked together to draw us into a conflict in the Middle East. All right, so that most of our assets are deployed to the Middle East, and then Russia would hit us on this side, or this side, and China on the other side. Yeah, Russia over here, China over here. Bam. All right. And actually, Russia's so big it could go either way. Russia could hit both coasts. All right. They could come this way. Boom. Bam. They can come this way. Bam. They can hit Alaska and take it back. And China, straight across, take out our resources here. Philippines, we have places in the Philippines. All right. Hawaii, as they come through, and hit the West Coast. All right. This was war gamed a long time ago by the Pentagon. All right, and those that were much higher than my ranking ever was. That would be the ideal thing for them. All right, and everybody's angry about Taiwan. I don't know why. We don't need involved in Taiwan. Listen, these people here, the Chinese. All right, the Chinese. You want to talk about sleeper cells? Sleeper cells? How many Chinese restaurants are in this country? Think about it. How many of them speak English fluently? No, because most of them are still Chinese citizens. All right. Most of them still fly back to China on a regular basis every year or two. All right. You think that there aren't sleeper cells there? They could have a standing army inside of our border right now. China could. I mean, you think about it. 50,000 Chinese restaurants in the country. Yeah. Times 5 employees. Do that math. Okay. But anyway, what I was saying is it's none of our business about Taiwan, because these guys here, these Chinese guys, that we all love their food. We all love their General Tso's or their orange chicken. Delicious food. Although you're hungry a half hour later, I get it. But delicious food. They helped us fight the Japanese who bombed Hawaii. And when we won the war against the axis of evil, all right, the Nazis and the Japanese, who were the axis of evil, guess what we did? We gave them Taiwan as a present. We said, oh, the Japanese stole it from you. We'll give it back now that we've helped liberate it for you. Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know that we gave Taiwan to China? I bet some of you didn't. Bet you a lot of you didn't. Got me drawing all over the map and shit here. Anyway. So that's why I think we shouldn't be getting involved in that in the first place, because that's their business. All right. That is their business. And if we didn't want them to have it, we shouldn't have given it to them in the first place. One, PMPs. Yeah, y'all didn't know that. See? Good. I'm glad I taught you something. Yes, we gave it to China because China was our ally during World War II. And Japan was the Axis powers. Isn't it funny how all of the Axis powers seem to be called allied powers now? And with the exception of a few, all the allied powers are now Axis powers. Like Russia, it was an allied power. Now it's an Axis power. China, it was an allied power. Now it's an Axis power. Seems like the only difference between then and now is that all of these places went woke, except for this one, and this one, and these ones. It seems I don't know. It just seems to me that woke is at war with not woke. Who'd have thought? Nah, it couldn't be that simple. Couldn't be that simple. Could not be that simple. It has to be about good versus evil. Wait a minute. Woke's pretty fucking evil. I guess it is. So what side are you on? Anyway, we're going to call this a night. I hope somebody learns something. I love it when you learn something. I learn something every day. Even if I don't remember what I learned that day, I did learn something. I learned something every day. Woke bad. That's funny. I like that. Woke bad. Team America. Does anybody have any questions? It's so cute. The curve of the horizon says, look, flat. It's a flat Earth. See that? It's flat. And the world and Antarctica. If we could get some people down here to help, to like go past the ice here and get to, well, wait, there's Antarctica's around. But if it was flat, if there was only people on the other side of the wall with other technology that could help us out, that'd be great. But all right. Good night. God bless. I hope this makes some of y'all think. I hope some of y'all learn something. Won't you be my neighbor? Yeah, I'll be your neighbor. No problem. Where do I need you to go? It's too early to tell. Beyond the ice wall. That's right. Do you like sweet and sour? I like General Tso's myself. General Tso's is where it's at. Rob, you gotta get some hair. You can be like what? Be like that painting guy. Oh, like the big poofy hair. I could be like Bob Ross. I'm gonna put happy little bombs right here. You should look like this. The happy little bomb. See the little bomb? It's a happy little bomb. And then when these guys act up right here, we're gonna draw some happy little bombs coming in over here. We're gonna have happy little bombs for everybody. All right. And these evil Russians up here, they don't like the LGBT. So we're gonna put some happy little bombs coming in on them. You know what? We're gonna rethink that real quick because they got happy little bombs too. So we don't want to do that. All right. That's some happy little bombs. I'm glad I can make y'all laugh. All right. Good night. God bless. And remember, the LGBT, the B means there's only two genders. It's in their own shit. All right. Good night. God bless. I love you guys. Take care.